Surrender. What is surrender? It is the same as mind control. The ego submits when it recognizes the higher authority of the Atman. This is the beginning of surrender. Although the ego cannot exist without the self, yet due to its ignorance of this fact, it remains rebellious and acts on its own initiatives and by its own will. How can the rebellious ego be subjugated? Either by seeking its source when it automatically disappears, or by deliberately surrendering all its actions, motives, and decisions, striking thereby at its root. Habits create the false notion that thinking is a permanent institution, with which it is impossible to dispense. But inquiry and discrimination will bless this fallacy. None succeeds without effort, and the successful few owe their victory to perseverance. People prostrate before God or the Guru to prove, I suppose, or at least to show their surrender. True surrender is the melting of the ego in its source, the heart. God is not deceived by physical genuflections. What he sees in the worshipper is how much of the ego remains in full control, and how much is on the verge of self-destruction. Maya. Of all the aspects of Advaita philosophy, that of Maya is the most difficult to understand, still more to explain. Some interpret it as ignorance, others as dreams, others still as illusion, and nothing but experience can explain it satisfactorily. In the meantime, considerable misunderstanding is created by explanations. The more it is explained, the more obscure it becomes. In one of the ashrams I visited in 1939, I met a Canadian lady who had come to India in search of truth, and had visited many yogis and ashrams, the last of which was the Ramakrishna Muth in Madras. We talked as usual on yoga, meditation, etc. But when I mentioned the word Maya, she gasped, clutched her throat, and dropped her voice. "Don't say it," she whispered. "Those people of Ramakrishna Mission were about to destroy me, but God came to my rescue and I escaped." "How do you mean? Did they want to kill you? They are sannyasis." "Not my body, but my soul. They told me that nothing exists, no world, no human beings, no trees, nothing, all is illusion, all my own imagination, and that I cannot kill the illusion till I surrender myself. Where will I be without my soul and mind?" I had no alternative but to change the subject, but Sri Bhagavan's explanations are superb, as will be seen from the following dialogues. What is the mystery of this gigantic world illusion? We speak of the world as illusion, yet everything in it follows rigid laws, which proves it to be well planned and well regulated. Yes, he who projected the illusion gave it the appearance of order and sound planning. All spiritual institutions, except the Advaitic, give prominence to the creative aspect of reality, which they name God. They speak of prophets, saints, scriptures, etc. Are they all illusion? They all exist in the same way as you, the questioner, exist. You are in the relative world, so they are, or else you would not have known of them. In dreams, one also sees a well-regulated world with saints, scriptures, etc. But the moment one wakes up, they all disappear. So also waking from this dream world into the supreme consciousness causes them all to disappear. But how out of truth does illusion, falsehood, spring up? Maya is not falsehood, although it has the appearance of it, but the active side of reality. It is the maker of forms in consciousness, and form means variety, which causes illusion. Mind you, all this variety is in consciousness and nowhere else. It is only in the mind. One jiva, seeing another jiva, forgets its identity with it and thinks of it as separate from itself. But the moment it turns its attention on its own nature as consciousness and not as form, The illusion of diversity or separateness breaks as a dream breaks when waking takes place. It is hard to conceive God the formless giving rise to forms. Why hard? Does not your mind remain formless when you do not perceive or think, say in deep sleep, in Samadhi, or in a swoon? And does it not create space and relationship when it thinks and impels your body to act? Just as your mind devises and your body executes in one homogeneous, automatic act, so automatic in fact that most people are not aware of the process, so does the divine intelligence devise and plan, and his energy automatically and spontaneously acts. The thought and the act are one integral whole. This creative energy, which is implicit in pure intelligence, is called by various names, one of which is Maya or Shakti, the creator of forms or images. Mr. Subbaramaya, the late professor of English, is a frequent visitor. When he comes, he discusses ancient Vedanic books with the master. Today's talk is about Kaivalyam. Maya comes up in the middle and claims attention. Sri Bhagavan explains. Every plane has its own illusion, which can be destroyed only by another illusion on the same plane. For example, a man takes a full meal and goes to sleep. He dreams of being hungry in spite of the Jagrat food in his stomach. To satisfy the dream hunger, he has to take dream food. A wound in dream requires dream treatment. A great king once dreamt that he was ill, but was too poor to call a doctor. He had to beg the doctor's fees from his friends to receive medical help. Although he had fabulous wealth in the waking state, it could be of no use to him in the dream state. Similarly, the illusion of ajnana, ignorance, can be destroyed only by the illusion of Guru Upadesa, the master's teaching. Mukti, liberation, is ever present, and bondage ever absent. Yet the universal experience is the reverse. It is cruel of God's Leela to make the knowledge of the self so hard. Knowing the self is being the self, and being means existence. One's own existence, which no one denies, any more than one denies one's eyes, although one cannot see them. The trouble lies with your desire to objectify the self, in the same way as you objectify your eyes when you place a mirror before them. You have been so accustomed to objectivity that you lost the knowledge of yourself, simply because the self cannot be objectified. Who is to know the self? Can the insentient body know it? All the time you speak and think of your I. Yet when questioned, you deny knowledge of it. You are the self, yet you ask how to know the self. Where then is God's Leela, and where its cruelty? It is because of this denial of the self by people that the Shastras speak of Maya, Leela, etc. Is there any genuine difference between the experience of Jagrat and that of dreams? None, except that Jagrat appears to be more enduring than the other to the person who is in Jagrat, though not so to the dreamer himself. The person in Jagrat relates his dream to have sometimes covered hundreds of years, hence he calls it transitory, whereas actually there is not the slightest difference between the nature of the two states. There is a difference. Each time we turn to Jagrat, we come to the same place, same people, same activities and interest, which is not the case with going to the Spatna state. This is because things move very rapidly in dreams, as they appear now to you in Jagrat. But each time you go to the dream world, do you feel being a stranger in it? Do you not feel thoroughly at home with the people and places as you do here? Don't you sometimes dream of being a minister, or meeting your father who had died in Jagrat long ago, or seeing God seated on a throne, etc., without noticing any incongruity in it? The dream is as real then to you as Jagrat is now. Where is the difference? If you call the dream illusion, why do you not do so to Jagrat also? Arjuna saw the divine form of Sri Krishna. Was that vision true? Sri Krishna started the discourse in chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita with, I have no form, etc. But in chapter 11 he said, I transcend these three worlds. Yet Arjuna saw these in him. Again Sri Krishna said, I am time. Does time have a form? If the universe is his form, should it not be uniform and changeless, he being the changeless one? The solution to these apparent contradictions lies in his statement to Arjuna, see in me all you desire to see, which means that his form varies according to the desires and conceptions of the seer. Men speak of divine visions, yet paint them differently with the seer himself in the scene. Even hypnotists can make one see strange scenes and phenomena which you condemn as tricks and jugglery, whereas the former you extol as divine. Why is this difference? The fact is that all sights are unreal, whether they come from the senses or the mind as pure concepts. This is the truth. Sri Bhagavan often says that Maya and reality are the same. How can that be? Shankara was criticized for his views on Maya without understanding him. He said that 1. Brahman is real, 2. The universe is unreal, and 3. Brahman is the universe. He did not stop at the second because the third explains the other two. It signifies that the universe is real if perceived as the self, and unreal if perceived apart from the self. Hence Maya and reality are one and the same. Guru. I have been following a certain school of thought which completely dispenses with gurus. But after many years of deep thinking, I have now come to the conclusion that a guide is absolutely essential on the difficult path which leads to spiritual liberation. I take Bhagavan to have reached the highest, and so I beg of him to enlighten me. All scriptures recommend spiritual teachers. The guru is none other than the goal men seek, the self. As the seeker's mind is bent outward, the self takes a human shape as a guru to help driving it inward. The Tayumanavar says that God's self or guru appears as a man to dispel the ignorance of man, just as a deer is used as a decoy to capture a wild deer. He has to appear in a body in order to dispel the I am the body notion of the seeker. Some people reported you to have said that there was no need for a guru. Others gave the opposite report. What does Maharshi say? I have never said that there is no need for a guru. Sri Aurobindo and others refer to you as having had no guru. All depends on what you call guru. He need not be in human form. Dattatreya had 24 gurus, the 5 elements, earth, water, etc., which means that every object in this world was his guru. Guru is absolutely necessary. The Upanishads say that none but a guru can take a man out of the jungle of intellect and sense perceptions. So there must be a guru. I mean a human guru. The Maharshi did not have one. I might have had one at one time or other. But did I not sing hymns to Arunachala? What is a guru? Guru is God or the self. First, a man prays to God to fulfill his desires. A time comes when he will no more pray for the fulfillment of material desires, but for God himself. God then appears to him in some form or other, human or non-human, to guide him to himself in answer to his prayer and according to his needs. In Mrs. Besant's time, we used to spend such a lot of time meditating on the masters. Are masters really useful? Masters do exist externally as long as the pupil feels himself to be the body. As such, they are useful to teach him the truth about himself. Once the pupil experiences the truth and breaks the body illusion, he realizes the masters to be the same as himself, namely, the supreme consciousness or self. If there are masters outside the self, then they are not real, being external additions. For he who comes will also go. That is impermanent. The fact is, self, master, and God are one and the same. Oh, we are far from this truth. How many miles are you far from it? Do you deny your existence? If not, how can you deny reality, which is pure existence, the self? Meditation. Patanjali first Sutras are indeed the climax of all systems of yoga. All yogas aim at the cessation of the vritti, modification of the mind. This can be brought about in the variety of ways mentioned in the scriptures through mind control, which frees consciousness from all thoughts and keeps it pure. Effort is necessary. In fact, effort is itself yoga. I suppose efforts have to be made in the waking state, which implies that moksha can be gained only in Jagrat. Quite so. Awareness is necessary for mind control. Otherwise, who is to make the effort? You cannot make it in sleep or under the influence of drugs. All mukti has to be gained in full awareness because the reality itself is pure awareness. There seems to be nothing but awareness. For to know anything, there must be knowledge. We cannot get over that. Certainly, subjective knowledge knowing itself, is jnana. It is then the subject as the knower, the object as the known, and the knowledge which connects them. This last is not clear to me in this case. Why so? Knowledge is the light which links the seer to the seen. Suppose you go in search of a book in a library in pitch darkness. Can you find it without a light, although you, the subject, and the book, the object, are both present? Light has to be present to unite you. This link between the subject and the object in every experience is chit, consciousness. It is both the substratum as well as the witness of the experience. The seer of Patanjali. Bhagavan, whenever I meditate, I feel great heat in the head, and if I persist, my whole body burns. What is the remedy? If concentration is made with the brain, sensations of heat and even headache ensue. Concentration has to be made in the heart, which is cool and refreshing. Relax, and your meditation will be easy. Keep your mind steady by gently warding off all intruding thoughts, but without strain. Soon you will succeed. A devotee, long before he got attached to this ashram, used off and on to fall into a sort of trance, in which he saw not the self but a sky-like blank, and told Sri Bhagavan about it. He who sees the blank is the self. Meditation is possible only with control of mind, which can be achieved only through meditation. Is this not a vicious circle? They are interdependent. In fact, meditation includes mind control, the subtle watchfulness against intruding thoughts. In the beginning, efforts for control are greater than for actual meditation, but in due course, meditation wins and becomes effortless. Your grace is needed for it. Practice is necessary. There is grace. In meditation, there are words to be repeated mentally. What is meditation but mental repetitions of a concept? It is a mental japam, which begins with words and ends in the silence of the self. A visitor has experienced great difficulty in meditation when he fights with what he imagines to be his ego. He went to the master for verification. In my meditation, I try to eliminate the wrong I, but so far without success. How can I eliminate itself? All you have to do is to find its source and abide in it as your real self. Your efforts can extend thus far. The beyond will take care of itself. Bhagavan, you always say that the self is ever present. If I am present, then why do I not feel it? Do you not feel that you exist? Your doubt is whether you will ever continue to exist. Why should you have any doubt? A little thinking will convince you that the destructible part of your being, the body, is a mere machine, a tool in the service of the indestructible, the mind which is the all in all, the knower and the master, you yourself. Your doubts and difficulties arise from your thoughts, which perceive the body and mistake it for yourself. Stop the thoughts, which are your enemy, the ego, and the mind will remain as your pure being, the immortal I. That is the best way of eliminating the ego. I am taught that mantra japam is very potent in practice. The self is the greatest of all mantras and goes on automatically and eternally. If you are not aware of this internal mantra, you should take to do it consciously as japam, which is attended with effort to ward off all other thoughts. By constant attention to it, you will eventually become aware of the internal mantra, which is the state of realization and is effortless. Firmness in this awareness will keep you continually and effortlessly in the current, however much you may be engaged on other activities. Listening to Veda chanting and mantras have the same result as conscious repetitions of japam. Its rhythm is the japam. How to prevent falling asleep in meditation? If you try to prevent sleep, it will mean thinking in meditation, which must be avoided. But if you slip into sleep while meditating, the meditation will continue even during and after sleep. Yet, being a thought, sleep must be got rid of, for the native state has to be obtained consciously in Jagrat, the waking state, without the disturbing thoughts. Waking and sleeping are mere pictures, the screen of the native thought-free state. Let them pass unnoticed. I am a beginner in meditation. I pray Bhagavan to guide me. You exhort us to go on inquiring, who am I? May I know where it will lead me? It is not mere asking, you must go into the meaning of it. Many meditate on certain centers in the body till they merge in them. But sooner or later they will have to inquire into their own nature, which is unavoidable. Then why not straightaway concentrate on yourself till you merge in its source? Yes, for 20 years I have been concentrating on certain chakras and have been seeing things and hearing sounds, but I go nowhere near the truth. Now how shall I go on asking, who am I? As soon as a thought arises in my mind? Quite so. So long as you are not disturbed by outside thoughts, dwell on its meaning. The aim is to reach the root of the I sense, through constant suppression of the mental processes. As far as I can see, it is impossible to realize the self until one has completely succeeded in preventing the rushing thoughts. Am I right? Not exactly. You do not need to prevent other thoughts. In deep sleep, you are entirely free from thoughts, because the I thought is absent. The moment the I thought rises on waking, all other thoughts rush out spontaneously. The wisest thing for one to do is therefore to catch hold of this leading thought, the I thought, and dissect it, who and what it is, giving thereby no chance to other thoughts to distract one. There lies the true value of the vichara and its efficacy in mind control. What meditation, dhyana, is the best? The best meditation is that which continues in all the three states. It must be so intense as not to give room even to the thought I am meditating. As waking and dream states will thus be fully occupied by it, deep sleep may also be deemed to be an undifferentiated dhyana. What is the difference between Sushumna, Nadi, and Atma Nadi? Sushumna is the central Nadi, which functions in the practice of yoga, that is, in dynamic dhyana. and for the attainment of siddhis, psychic powers, in which the yogis claim to end in Sahasrara, the brain. Atma Nadi, Paranadi, or Amrita Nadi is the force current which rises from the heart to the Sahasrara in the static dhyana of the jnana, static dhyana of the jnana marga, which leads to self-realization. Sushumna has finally to merge in the Atma Nadi, which supports it. The nadis are the nervous system along with consciousness. The nervous system, along with consciousness, flows from the heart to the whole organism. Sri Aurobindo speaks of two forces which affect the yogic practice, one horizontally and the other vertically. I do not understand it. All forces come from the self, which has no directions. But Sri Aurobindo may be speaking figuratively of the dynamic force which results from concentration in the head center or on Kundalini Shakti, and the static which results from the Vichara Dhyana in the heart. Bhagavan speaks of Samadhi, trance. I take it to mean total loss of body consciousness. I'm afraid I shall never be able to attain it. I find it hard to send myself to sleep even. Is it necessary before self-realization? You have to take chloroform in that case. Samadhi is itself the state of the self. What do you understand by total loss of body consciousness? You do not imagine it to be falling into a sort of catalepsy or deep sleep. In Samadhi, the mind is in Jagrat, but being free from thoughts, it enjoys the bliss of Sushupti, in which the mind is withdrawn. In Samadhi, the mind is also alert and it experiences Brahman. If it were not so fully awake, how would it know Brahman? In fact, it itself becomes Brahman. Does trance convey that idea? If not, it is a wrong word for Samadhi. Do karma yogis and bhaktas also pass through Samadhi? Samadhi is merging in the heart through concentration and mind control. Karma and bhakti yogis also attain Samadhi if they practice. In fact, most of them attain mukti eventually by the vichara method. Mr. C reads the 40 verses of Sri Bhagavan to himself in the hall. Verse 30 fascinates him. He reads it aloud and says, "From this verse I understand that the quest must start with the mind, not in the heart. But Bhagavan always speaks of the heart, perhaps as the last stage in the practice." Quite so, quite so. It has to begin with the mind turned inward to oppose the rushing thoughts and to understand the location of the I. When the mind eventually sinks in the heart, undisturbed bliss is overwhelmingly felt. There is then feeling which is not divorced from pure awareness, i.e., head and heart become one and the same. In verse 266 of Vivekachudamani, Sri Shankaracharya says that Brahman can be realized by buddhi, the subtle intellect, which means that the intellect can be of great help, in fact indispensable for realization. The word buddhi is rightly translated as the subtle intellect, but here it means the cave of the heart. Nevertheless, the subtle intellect can also realize Brahman and is therefore of utmost importance. In the cave of the buddhi subtle intellect, there is the Brahman, distinct from gross and subtle, the existence absolute supreme, the one without a second. For one who lives in this cave as Brahman, O beloved, there is no more entrance into a woman's womb. Vivekachudamani speaks of the I consciousness as eternally shining in the heart, but no one is aware of it. Yes, all men without exception have it, in whatever state they may be, the waking, dreaming, and dreamless sleep, and whether they are conscious of it or not. In the talks section of Sat Darshana Bhashaya, the I is referred to as the absolute consciousness. Yet Bhagavan once told me that any realization before Sahaja Nirvikalpa is intellectual. Yes, the I consciousness is the absolute, though it comes before Sahaja. There is in it, as in Sahaja itself, the subtle intellect. The difference being that in the latter, the sense of forms disappears, which is not the case in the former. Bhagavan, you said yesterday that there exists in the human body a hole, as small as a pinpoint, from which consciousness always bubbles out to the body. Is it open or shut? It is always shut, being the knot of ignorance, which ties the body to consciousness. When the mind drops in tempore kevalya nirvikalpa, it opens but shuts again. In Sahaja, it remains always open. How is it during the experience of I consciousness? This consciousness is the key which opens it permanently. Does the inquiry, who am I, lead to any spot in the body? Evidently, self-consciousness is in relation to the individual himself, and therefore has to be experienced in his being, with a center in the body as the center of experience. It resembles the dynamo of a machine, which gives rise to all sorts of electrical works. It not only maintains the life of the body and the activities of all its parts and organs, conscious and unconscious, but also the relation between the physical and the subtler planes on which the individual functions. Also, like the dynamo, it vibrates and can be felt by the calm mind that pays attention to it. It is known to the yogis and sadhakas by the name of spurana, which in Samadhi scintillates with consciousness. How to reach that center, where what you call the ultimate consciousness, the I, arises? Is it by simply thinking, who am I? Yes, it will take you up. You must do it with a calm mind. Mental calmness is essential. How does that consciousness manifest itself when that center, the heart, is reached? Will I recognize it? Certainly, as pure consciousness, free from all thoughts. It is pure, unbroken awareness of yourself, rather of being. There is no mistaking it when pure. Is the vibratory movement of the center felt simultaneously with the experience of pure consciousness, or before or after it? They are both one and the same, but spurana can be felt in a subtle way even when meditation has sufficiently stabilized and deepened, and the ultimate consciousness is very near, or during a sudden great fright or shock, when the mind comes to a standstill. It draws attention to itself so that the meditator's mind, rendered sensitive by calmness, may become aware of it, gravitate towards it, and finally plunge into it, the self. Is the I consciousness self-realization? It is a prelude to it. When it becomes permanent, sahaja, it is self-realization, liberation,